So the African American community here in Miami has been displaced many times. The story doesn't just start with the recent housing boom. There was the interstate of I-95 that came through in the 70s, as well as many successive housing booms that have further pushed and squished the African American community in terms of housing options. And so back in the 30s, when there was an interest in Overtown, which then was called Colored Town, a number of the communities then were displaced into a neighborhood called Liberty City. And that's where we're standing right now. Liberty City is another historic community of Miami. And here is where they built Scott Carver homes. And these were federally built, federally funded public housing units that were actually top of the line at the time. They had, indoor plumbing, washing machines, which were big things back then. And there was actually nothing else here, so it was considered the boonies, and this is where families were sent to. Well, these homes became the heart of the Liberty City community, and there's a vibrant community that have been developed since. Homeowners, small businesses, many community activists, football players, lawyers, famous rap artists have all come from these streets and from this housing development, Scott Carver Homes. And unfortunately, in 1999, the county applied for federal funds for a program called Hope 6 to redevelop these homes. And Hope 6 fundamentally was not about redeveloping or bettering the homes for the community. It was actually about wiping the community out. And so yet again, gentrification and yet again, urban removal was taking place for the community living here. What that's meant is over 900 families were promised a new home and instead were completely displaced. They were bought off by different housing vouchers or even offered TVs, hook or crook. They were taken out of these homes, and these homes were then going to be turned over, they were going to be demolished, and then their land was going to be turned over to private developers who were going to receive millions of dollars in federal funding as well as county incentives to build here on this land. We at the Miami Worker Center, through a program called LIFT, Low-Income Families Fighting Together, organized a number of the residents to try and talk about what was really behind this scheme, taking over 60 acres of land for private profit as opposed to being the heart of the Liberty City community. And we were able to successfully stave off the Hope 6 project for many years through lawsuits, through civil disobedience, and mass protests. But about 4 years ago, they were successful in starting to be able to kick people out of the neighborhood. So where we're standing now is the new, brand spanking new homes, which of course you can see is not the case. This is a wasteland, and over 1,000 families were displaced, and this home was left empty to decay. And so in the years that followed, we worked with a number of civil rights organizations, as well as the Miami Herald, to do an investigative series into what had happened to both the money and the programs to redevelop these homes. And in 2006, a historic press story hit the papers called The House of Lies. And this was a 40-piece investigative series unveiling the truth of the housing agency here and the fact that nothing had happened with this development, and those families were wrongly displaced. That series later won the Pulitzer Prize for local reporting. So, as a result of that, a number of the residents were able to come back to the housing agency and demand restitution, demand that these homes be rebuilt. And so in 2007, former Scott Carver residents, people who used to live on these streets, were able to strike a deal with the mayor of Miami and demand that over 900 homes be replaced and brought back to this neighborhood. Today, a number of Scott Carver residents that were literally living on the streets or living in their cars have now been placed into homes and have been placed into the housing agency's affordable housing programs. The 900 homes have not been rebuilt. Some of the homes have been rebuilt through Habitat for Humanity, but in fact, trying to build back the 900 homes is something that residents today are in negotiations with the county, particularly the mayor of Miami-Dade County, as well as housing agency officials. The first 400 homes that are slated to be built are currently being put to bid, and there are a number of developers that are being reviewed, and they are committed to bringing back equally affordable homes for the community here in Liberty City.